is it acceptable to go to bed angry if you don't have the mental or emotional capacity to communicate about the argument that you're having in that moment, right? And so, man, like, what a great question. Like, if I'm in an argument with I feel like I'm imagining this between my wife and I because that's who I'm usually talking to right before I go to bed. But it could be with a lot of different people.
Is this who you're normally angry at?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
But
It
you know,
happens.
when you do life that close to somebody,
Yeah.
there's conflicts that come up.
Yeah.
And so when you're in an argument like that, right, and you can tell, man, it's 2 a.m.
Wow.
Everyone's exhausted. You've just come back from a long day of doing whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And like you just want to go to bed. You're physically exhausted. You're emotionally exhausted. You're worried if you say something, you're just going to hurt the other person, but you're still angry about what you're feeling. Is it okay to let the sun go down on your anger?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple thoughts here. One marital tip, or even just relational tip, is that like don't bring up any heavy conversations after 10 o'clock. Like it's just it's one of the things that contribute to the tension in your relationship. In fact, if you're hungry,
right before we go to bed, let's talk about finances.
Yeah. Let's talk about let's have another kid, whatever, like all that stuff.
Oh no.
Right. So if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, those are the 4 like situations that usually evoke like difficult responses or difficult like emotional like outcomes. It just really does have an emotional. So
grab a Snicker, grab a Monsters.
Yeah. So like if your blood sugar is low, if you're sleepy, you're tired, if you're feeling lonely, you don't want to make any like permanent decisions or even begin a decision-making process when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. That's HALT. Okay, HALT.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out. Okay.
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And so, like, at the end of the night, I totally get the idea of, like, okay, I'm angry about something, but I just want to go to sleep, right? I don't even have the emotional capacity to have this conversation. Now, for those
But Kelly, the Bible says...
Yeah, so the Bible says in Ephesians 4:26 through 27, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold.
I feel like it's harder during certain times of the year. You know, during the winter, there's less sunlight, so you can't.
Well,
be
yeah,
as
and
angry.
when you're quarantined,
but during the summer, you can be more.
You can make your sun going down angry conversations. You can like stretch that to like 9
but if
or
you
10.
live up in Alaska, you like pretty much can't be angry at all.
the time.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah. So so this passage, Paul is actually teaching the church how to live in harmony with one another. In fact, it's how Christians live life together that actually speaks volumes to the cultures and societies that are surrounding us and watching us. And one of the ways that makes Jesus so attractive is how we respond when we disagree with one another, right? And anger is not in itself a bad thing. We just make bad decisions as a result of it. That's why Paul says, be angry, right? Be honest, be authentic with how you're feeling with one another, but don't sin. See, there's 2 types of anger. There's unrighteous anger and then there's righteous anger, right? And you see righteous anger, and we've benefited from people who are righteously angry. Like, you know, people who are angry at the oppression of the poor, or people who are angry at the oppression of children in third world country, or child trafficking. Like we get amazing organizations that come out of people who are angry at like racism, and you know there's a civil rights movement with MLK, or people who are angry at child trafficking in Thailand, and we get organizations like Zoe International, or people who are angry at the oppression of the poor, and then you get the Union Rescue Mission. This is righteous anger that usually helps a flourishing society. But then unrighteous anger is usually geared towards your self-interest or self-preservation, or it's usually as a result of your own personal pride or your own personal like offense.
Well, we've been hurt.
Yeah,
You've hurt me, and now I'm angry.
Now I'm angry, and I want you to feel the pain that I'm feeling.
That's right.
And that starts to create a cycle that is hard to get out of, which is another way of saying foothold or stronghold. And so let me just share maybe one or two tips on how to deal with your anger. What you need to understand, I think, and what this girl needs to understand is that
Girl?
I don't know.
Are you just like
a guy or girl? Yeah, I don't know. I'm just
I like that this has become personified.
Yeah, I mean, what this girl needs to understand, let me tell her. No, is that we all go through cycles. We all go through a pain cycle and there's a peace cycle. And it emulates the same 4 characteristics. First is a trigger. Somebody triggered you.
That's a popular phrase.
Yeah,
now.
I'm triggered.
Yes.
I know, I'm triggered.
The phrase triggers me.
Yes.
Is that okay to say?
Yeah, and so whatever that trigger could be, it can be like somebody literally looks at you the wrong way, or cuts you off in traffic, or or forgets your name, or doesn't
says something nice but with the wrong tone.
Right. Says something nice
past 10 p.m.
Yes.
When you're feeling that
hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Yeah, exactly.
What did you?
What did you mean by that?
Me?
Yeah. What did you mean? You said this.
What do you mean that'd be fine?
I'm not angry. Well, tell your face that. Okay. Triggered. There's a trigger, and then there's an emotion that's attached to that. And sometimes you can't control what that emotion's going to be. And what we need to know is that emotions are like waves. They come and they go, right? And just as fast as they come, they also dissipate over time. And so, but no emotion lasts forever. But we think it does in the moment. And so there's a trigger, there's an emotion, and then there's either a reaction or a response. Right? Now, this is something that you choose to do as a result of how you are feeling. Right? And this will determine whether you stay in the pain cycle or you actually start to move towards the peace cycle. See, the pain cycle just reacts to that emotion, and it does whatever that emotion wants you to do. But the peace cycle decides to make the wise decision as a result of how you're feeling. Now, the wise thing to do in that moment may be to pause and say, hey, can we table this? I promise we'll get back to it, right? But the response cycle, like the peace cycle, always seeks resolution, always seeks restoration. It's the same type of cycle that God has with us. He's seeking restoration and resolution through his son, Jesus Christ. And now we get to emulate that in our relationships. And then finally is the outcome of that response. And how you determine, right? How these 4 characteristics in this cycle will determine the quality of your relationships, either painful or peaceful. Now, the question still remains. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. What does that mean? What that means is, how many sundowns will it take for you to decide to resolve your conflict? Because if you don't, you're going to leave room for Satan to have a foothold in your life, and you will continue to repeat the same mistakes that you made either in this relationship or in the next one, right? So let me ask you the question: how many sundowns is acceptable?
12.
12.
No, that's probably not right.
No.
Yeah. I think that's great. I mean, because the idea here is you can still have been offended, hurt, damaged by someone else, and that relationship may not have been repaired yet. So the passage isn't saying, hey, repair all your relationships before the sun goes down.
No.
The idea is that the anger that is stewing up inside of us, that hurt and that emotional response, we need to take that somewhere. We can't just live in the anger.
No. But that's the temptation, because we feel, or that's what our emotions are asking us to do, is surrender our decisions to that emotional response from that trigger.
Often feels protective.
Yes.
Right? Someone's hurt me, and now I'm going to revel in that feeling of anger because it feels like it's protecting that part that's been hurt.
Yes. And honestly, when we're hurt, right, we tend to get narcissistic. Right? When we're in pain, we tend to get self-centered, because just think about if I were to hit your arm, everything about you would focus your attention to that arm. Right, you would become inward. Your other hand would go to your arm. Extra blood vessels would start to run to that area to tend to it. And so when we're emotionally hurt, we tend to get inward, right? And it's hard to think about what's beneficial for those around us. And so what's sometimes best for us to do is when we're angry, and we don't want to sin, right? Some people are angry and they do want to sin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if you're angry and you don't want to sin, you need to take a break and, try to do the thing that Jesus does for us. Try to be that person's advocate instead of their accuser, and then make a decision on how you're going to respond, right? Because the way you respond will determine the quality and the destiny of our relationships. And here's the thing. If you let that anger, if you hold on to that anger, I mean, that's what I think this is what it means when we give the devil a foothold. Because the result of handling this well, or the result of handling our relationships not well, will result in giving the devil a foothold in our relationships and in our lives. And again, that foothold is just a cycle that repeats itself, right? So if we hold on to anger will have a hold on us. Mm-hmm. And so the reality is, because we don't want anger to hold us, we don't want to let too many sundowns go by before we resolve and we seek resolution with the people that we have conflict with.
And if you can't resolve the relationship before you're going to bed, before you're falling asleep, right? You're tired, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Bring the hurt and the anger to God.
Absolutely.
Remember that He's your protector. Mm-hmm. Jesus is the one who did everything in order to bring you into a loving relationship with Him. That He's bigger than whatever the circumstances you're going through.
Absolutely.
And let Him begin to adjust that spot in your heart, right? And as opposed to deciding, you know what, I like this feeling of anger. I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna think about this and what my responses should have been.
I'm gonna
thing I'm gonna do.
Reenact the stories in my head.
They didn't understand that one thing, and I'm gonna make them understand my point on that. That's where my mind goes, right? When I'm frustrated or angry with someone, I want to keep playing those things over and over again, and instead we have to let go of that and hand that over to Him. Instead of thinking about the things that we're going to do the next time.
Yeah. And Paul is a master, like the guy who wrote Ephesians 4. He's a master in the Old Testament. And he's not actually giving any new prescriptions on how to deal with your anger. And just like you said, bring it to the Lord. Paul is actually echoing a psalm of David. It says this: "Be angry and do not sin. Ponder in your own hearts, on your own beds, and be silent." And then it says Selah, which is a reflective word in Hebrew. And so basically he's saying what you're saying. It's like, bring your anger before the Lord, right? Take a beat, be silent, let God enter into your pain. And that's like one of the beautiful things that we know about Jesus is that He's felt everything we've felt. Right? And there's no emotion that we've experienced that He has not. Mm-hmm. And so it's actually a safe place to bring Jesus into those uncomfortable parts of our lives. He understands that. And I think it's really important that when we are having interpersonal conflict, that bringing Jesus into that space is one of the most healthy rhythms that you can do, especially if you're not ready to resolve or you don't have the emotional capacity. Like this person just said, I don't have the emotional capacity to deal with this argument right now. That's fine. You can bring it to Jesus. He's got the emotional capacity.
I think that comes from a spot, right, of I don't want to sin in my anger.
Totally.
I feel myself getting weak in this moment, and I don't have the strength to hold off saying things that I'm going to regret later.
Yes.
And so those are good things to recognize about yourself.
Absolutely. And again, just to wrap it up, the key statement that I think people need to understand, especially in regards to understanding Ephesians 4, is, the longer we hold on to anger will have a hold on us. Mm-hmm. Don't let too many sundowns go down on your anger. Sun goes, whatever, you guys get the point. All right. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of like sums up and, also remember the pain cycle. And then 2, put some boundaries around. If you are a hothead, if you're angry all the time, put some boundaries around the type of conversations that you choose to get involved in at certain times. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, maybe those aren't the times to have heated discussions. So monitor that. Monitor your blood sugar level too.